An old woman in a plain wrapper walked into the most expensive confectionery in Lagos, asked for a small cake, and was shoved toward the door by two clerks who decided her clothes meant she could not pay. Only one person in that whole gleaming shop moved to defend her, a young street seamstress who could not afford the cake either, and who handed the old woman her own lunch instead. Neither of them knew that this small act, one meat pie passed between strangers, would end in a marriage, a billion-dollar company, and a secret large enough to break both their hearts. If you believe one quiet act of kindness can rewrite an entire life, tap subscribe now and stay with me, because this story does not go where you think it will. Patricia Ease had a habit that unsettled the people who worked for her. Every so often she would leave her fine clothes at home, put on a simple wrapper, take a bus instead of a car, and walk into places where no one knew her last name. "I want to see how people behave," she liked to say, "when they don't know who I am." At 71, she had learned that the truest measure of a person is how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. That afternoon, she walked into an elite pastry shop, the kind with glass counters and prices that made ordinary people turn around at the door. And she asked the two young women behind the counter for the small vanilla cake, the one her grandson liked. Then she reached into her bag and her face changed. "I think I've forgotten my wallet," she said. "Please give me a minute. My grandson is coming. Let me call him." The taller clerk, Rita, looked her up and down and laughed. "You came to a shop like this without money. People will say anything when they can't pay." The other one, Ngozi, added, "This is an elite confectionery. People like you can't afford anything here. Go before our real customers arrive." "Is that any way to speak to an old woman?" Patricia asked quietly. They did not soften. They told her she had wasted their precious time, that this was not a roadside restaurant, that she should take her big bag and leave. When she didn't move fast enough, Rita came around the counter and put a hand on her shoulder and pushed. Patricia stumbled. And that was the moment a young woman near the door set down the bag of clothes she was carrying and crossed the shop. "Be careful with her," the young woman said, steadying the old woman by the elbow. "Are you all right, Mama?" "I'm fine, my daughter, thank you." The young woman turned to the clerks, and though her own dress was patched and her shoes were worn thin, she did not lower her eyes. "Why did you push her?" "She said she forgot her wallet. That can happen to anyone. You could have let her make her call." "Look at your own clothes," Ngozi shot back. "You can't afford anything here either. Poverty attracts poverty. Take your friend and go." "Money doesn't make you better than another person," the young woman said. She looked at the price on the little card by the vanilla cake, 5,000 naira. And Patricia watched her count coins and small notes in her palm and come up short. She could not buy it. Of course she could not. But she reached into her bag and drew out a wrapped meat pie, her own lunch, and pressed it gently into the old woman's hands. "Take this," she said. "You've been standing a long time. Please eat something while you wait for your grandchild." "And what will you eat?" Patricia asked. "I'll manage. I'll eat later." Something moved in the old woman's chest that had not moved in years. Many wealthy young women smiled at Patricia every day, but they smiled because they knew her name. This girl did not know her from anyone. She could not afford the cake, and still she had given away her only meal. "What's your name, child?" "Chizaram Osuji," the young woman said. "But everyone calls me Zara." "Zara, that's a beautiful name." The old woman held her eyes. "I'm Patricia. You can call me Mama Patricia. Do you use WhatsApp? Add me. If you ever need anything, you call me. Do you hear? Thank you, Mama." Zara glanced at the sky through the glass. "I have to go. I sew the clothes I sell, and I'm already late to my stall." "You sew them yourself?" Patricia's eyes sharpened. "Come and show me one day. I'll remember that name, Zara." Zara gathered her bag and hurried out into the heat, and Patricia stood a moment longer with the meat pie warm in her hands and made a decision that would upend two lives. Because Patricia Ease was not a poor woman at all. She was the grandmother of Chima Eze, 27 years old, and one of the richest, most private men in the country, owner and chairman of the Ease Group. And she had just watched a stranger with nothing in her pockets show more grace than every polished heiress who had ever tried to marry into her family. When Chima's car pulled up outside the shop, the other customers went quiet and turned to stare, because everyone recognized the handsome young billionaire whose face was rarely photographed. He found his grandmother sitting outside on a bench, a half-eaten meat pie beside her. "Grandma, what are you doing out here, and where did you get that?" He frowned. "You called me away from a meeting." I finished the meeting and came the moment you called, he added, kissing her cheek. The girl has already gone, Patricia said, rising. We have to find her. Find who? Zara, the woman who is going to become your wife. Chima laughed, then saw she was not laughing. Grandma, I'm not married. I know, she said. That's the problem. Emeka, start the car. We're going to see your wife. He tried to slow her down the whole ride, insisting he did not have a wife, that she had met this woman only minutes ago. But Patricia only folded her hands and said that a few minutes had been enough. She had the address Zara had sent her over WhatsApp, and she gave it to the driver. It took Chima the whole drive to understand she was serious. Across the city, at a small roadside stall shaded by a cloth awning, Zara was folding the dresses she had made, trying to get everything in order before her evening buyers arrived. Her phone rang, and the voice on the other end made her stomach drop. It was Vincent, the debt collector. Where is my money? He said before she could even greet him. Sir, I'm still trying to raise it. Please, a little more time. You said the same thing last month. Your parents squandered our money and died, and you act as if the debt died with them. It did not. The debt was not hers, and yet it was hers. Years earlier, a businessman her parents trusted, a man who ate at their table and called her father brother, had offered them what he called a safe investment money that would double in a few months. At first, it looked real. Small payments came right on time, and her parents believed. They showed the returns to their friends. They poured in their savings, and when the businessman said the window was closing, they borrowed against the house and poured that in too. Then the payments stopped, and the phone numbers stopped working, and the office they had visited turned out to be a room rented by the week. The man had vanished with everything. The people her parents owed came to the house. Some insulted them in the street. Others told strangers ugly stories that were not true. Zara had watched her father, a proud man, grow small and gray under the weight of it until the stress took him. Her mother never recovered from the shame. She stopped leaving the house, then stopped eating, and within 2 years of the first missed payment, Zara had buried them both. She had sold the family home, sold the furniture, sold her mother's jewelry and her own school things, and still, when every last thing was gone, 20 million naira remained unpaid. She had been carrying it alone ever since. It was why she flinched at the word liar, why a broken promise frightened her more than an empty stomach ever had. If I don't have my money by Friday, Vincent said, I'll come to that miserable stall of yours and burn every scrap of cloth in it, and I'll tell everyone how your parents died owing money. My parents were good people, she whispered. Good people pay their debts. You have until Friday. 3 days. Even if she sold everything she owned, it would not be enough. She was still standing there with the dead phone in her hand and tears on her face when a car, far too expensive for that street, rolled to a stop in front of her stall. Mama Patricia. Zara wiped her face quickly. I wasn't expecting you so soon. I told you I wanted to see your clothes. The old woman climbed out, studying her. Were you crying? No, Mama. Something caught my eye, that's all. Behind Patricia, a tall young man in ordinary clothes stepped out of the car, and Zara's breath caught because he was strikingly handsome. Patricia introduced him as her grandson, Chima. He looked over the dresses and blouses hanging along the stall, and despite himself, he was impressed. You made all of these. Where did you learn to sew like this? I studied fashion design, Zara said. Then why are you selling on the side of a road? This is all I can afford right now, she answered without apology. I keep applying for designer jobs, but the companies want experience or they want connections. Talent alone was never enough to open the door, so I keep working. One day the right person will notice. Patricia turned to her grandson with the look of a woman who had just proven a point to herself. Kind, hard-working, talented. This is the woman you should marry, Chima. Grandma, he's 27 and not married, Patricia went on, ignoring him entirely. No girlfriend either. Marry him. Zara stared. Mama, I can't. I only just met him. So did I, Patricia said cheerfully. And here Chima cut in because his grandmother was about to describe his houses and companies and cars, and he had reasons of his own to stay hidden. My grandmother likes to talk this way, he said smoothly. She grew up poor. People looked down on her, so now she enjoys pretending we're very rich. He shrugged toward the gleaming car at the curb. That's my boss's car. I'm just an ordinary man, small salary, no house, no car of my own. He sent me on an errand and I brought Grandma along. It was a lie, and he told it without blinking, and Zara believed every word. But Patricia was not finished. How much money do you need, she asked. For what? To agree to marry my grandson. Zara almost smiled. Mama, I was joking about. You weren't joking, Patricia said. Tell me, how much? And because she was tired and cornered and had just been threatened over the phone, Zara said the true number before she could stop herself. 20 million. My parents left a debt. I've been paying it off for years. I don't expect anyone to pay it for me. She saw the young man's face change just slightly, and she read it wrong. She thought it was shock at the amount. It was not. Chima had heard a woman answer a marriage proposal by naming a sum of money, and he had thought at once exactly what a rich man raised among fortune hunters would think. So she's like the rest of them. I'll pay it, Patricia said. All of it. Mama, no, I can't take that kind of money from you. You can. But there's one condition. You and Chima marry properly on paper. Zara shook her head. Marriage isn't something you do for money. Some marry for love and suffer anyway, Patricia said. We'll start with respect and we'll see. I'm not asking you to fall in love tonight. I'm asking you to let me end the thing that's been eating you alive. 20 million naira, enough to finally silence Vincent to save her stall to sleep a full night for the first time in years, and the price was a stranger. Zara asked for time to think, and Patricia gave her until morning. You've made my grandson wait 27 years, the old woman said. One night is enough. Chima watched her hesitate and drew his own quiet conclusion. She already gave herself away when she named the money he thought. This marriage won't last, and when it collapses, Grandma will finally stop choosing wives for me. Neither of them was right about the other. That was the whole trouble. By morning, Zara had decided. She met them at the registry office where a registrar named Mr. Adiemi and his assistant Bisi had the documents ready. Marriage is a legal commitment, Mr. Adiemi told them. Rights, responsibilities, obligations. Do you both understand? Yes. They said, not looking at each other. When it was done and they were pronounced husband and wife, Patricia reached over and took both signed certificates and tucked them into her own bag. Grandma, those belong to us, Chima said. And I know both of you, she replied. If I leave them with you, one of you will wake up tomorrow and quietly file for divorce. They stay with me. And with that, she announced she was leaving so the newlyweds could be alone, and she went over both their protests out the door. They stood in the empty room, two strangers with the same last name now. We should be clear about something, Zara said. I know, Chima answered. This marriage is temporary. I don't expect love. I don't expect us to act like a normal couple. I'm fine with that. He watched her, waiting to learn what she really wanted. Then she surprised him. She held out a bank card. This is mine, she said. The 20 million, I'm going to pay it back. Not all at once maybe, but every month in installments. I have an interview tomorrow. When I find a real job, I'll pay more. I don't want anyone ever to say I sold myself for money. Chima did not take the card. He had walked into that room certain she would ask for a house, a car, a monthly allowance to be written into the arrangement. Instead, she was already planning to hand the money back in pieces out of a stall's worth of small notes. You don't have to do this, he said. I do, Zara answered. I have an interview tomorrow. As soon as I find real work, I'll increase the payments. I won't have anyone say I sold myself. She pressed the card toward him again. Take it. He closed her fingers back around it. Keep it. For transport food. Consider it yours. And for the first time, something in his certainty cracked. Maybe I judged her too soon, he thought. Or maybe she's simply patient, and the asking comes later. I'll watch. Time tells the truth. What he did not tell her, could not tell her yet, was where the 20 million had come from. It was not company money. It was Patricia's own retirement savings set aside over decades. For one thing, the wedding of the grandson she loved. Chima had promised himself he would replace every naira of it, but he said none of that. He simply told Zara to keep the card for transport and food, and she thanked him, and they parted as politely as two people who had just married by accident could. Not long after the Ize group finalized a purchase Chima had been arranging for weeks. Crown Designs, a fashion house that had nearly gone bankrupt, his assistant and closest friend from University, Kalichi, brought him the file over coffee. You actually did it, Kalichi said, grinning. Married. Your grandmother sent me the photo from the registry. She also said to keep it because you can deny everything later. Grandma's enjoying this far too much. This marriage won't last, you keep saying. Kalichi sipped his coffee. That's exactly what they always say at the start of a love story. It isn't a love story. Chima opened the Crown Designs file. They're interviewing new designers today. Who's running it? Ifeoma Nwafor Senior Recruitment. A few department heads sit in. Any complaints about them? Several. Some staff say positions only go to their own people. Others say original sketches keep disappearing from the company. Is it recorded? Live streamed to the new management team. Good. I want to see how honestly this company is run before I decide who stays. What Chima did not know as he said it was that his own wife was already on her way to that interview. Zara arrived early and found the reception hall packed 47 candidates for a company that had almost died the week before. She overheard the reason in the murmurs around her. The Ease Group had bought Crown Designs, and everyone wanted in. They gossiped about the billionaire Chima Ease 27. So influential that older businessmen feared him, so private he was almost never photographed. My husband's name is Chima Ease, Zara thought, half amused. And he's 27 too. What a strange coincidence. She had never followed business news. She had been too busy surviving. The only Chima Ease she knew was a security guard with no house and no car. She smoothed the dress she had stayed up 3 nights to sew one of her best designs and prayed it would finally open a door. Then a voice she had hoped never to hear again cut him across the hall. Zara, is that you? It was Amaka Ude, her former classmate from a family famous in the fashion world. At university, Amaka had pretended friendship while quietly copying Zara's sketches. I heard you sell clothes by the roadside now, Amaka said loud enough for others to hear. And you think that makes you a designer? You couldn't even afford new clothes in school. You patched the same dresses over and over. I mended my clothes because I had no money for new ones, Zara said evenly. There's no shame in surviving. This is Crown Designs, not your roadside stand. Amaka lowered her voice. Don't waste your time. My uncle is a senior director connected to the Ease Group. He's already spoken to the people running this interview. The job is mine. I'm only trying to save you the shame. Then you have nothing to fear from me, Zara said and turned away. When the presentations began, Zara and Amaka were called to present together. And when Amaka's garment was brought out, Zara felt the floor tilt, the color, the neckline, the sleeves, the beading at the waist. All of it was hers, exactly hers. That's my design, Zara said. She copied it. How dare you, Amaka snapped. I knew her at university. She was always jealous of me. This is from my family's private collection. Ifeoma Nwafor, the recruitment officer, folded her hands. She had already been visited that morning by Director Ude Amaka's uncle, who had made it plain that his niece was to get the position. Ifeoma had been at Crown Designs a long time, and she knew which requests could not be refused. You have no work experience, Ifeoma told Zara coolly. You sell clothes on the road. You expect us to believe a street vendor created this? My workplace doesn't determine the worth of my talent, Zara said. I posted an early version of this design online months ago from my own account. Someone copied it. Anyone can post a photo and claim it, Amaka said. If it's yours, show us your original sketches. I brought finished garments as we were told to, Zara said. Not every scrap of paper. But she did have something. She opened her folder and laid out her original sketches dated months earlier. The first idea, the note where she'd changed the neckline because it looked too heavy. The mark where she'd reduced the beading to keep the design clean. The measurements matched the finished dress to the centimeter. The room began slowly to believe her. Anyone can post a photo online, Ifeoma said, waving the sketches away. It proves nothing. Miss Yude's family has been in fashion for years. This is from their private collection. Zara only ever wore cheap patched clothes at university, Amaka added. She's probably never even owned an evening gown. How would a girl like that know how to build one? You're right, Zara said, and the room turned. I've never owned an evening gown, but I don't need to own a thing to understand how to make it. A designer doesn't have to be rich to understand beauty. Then she saw it in Amaka's hands, half hidden a small, worn sketchbook she knew as well as her own handwriting. That's mine, she said quietly. You took it from me. I knew some of my drawings had gone missing, and now I understand where. That's a lie, Amaka said, but her hand had tightened on the book. Enough, Ifeoma said sharply. This interview is being streamed. Your behavior has already shown us what kind of person you are. Crown Designs cannot hire a thief. Apologize to Miss Yude, admit what you did, and you may still leave with your dignity. Zara went very still. For years she had drawn and cut and sewn until her eyes burned. Amaka had stolen her work once at university, and now, again in front of a live audience with the whole weight of the room arranged against her. I will not apologize for my own work, she said. And it isn't you rejecting me today. It's me rejecting Crown Designs. A company that can't tell a designer from a thief won't last long. She picked up her sketches and walked out with her back straight. What she did not know was that Chima Easy had been watching every second of it on the live stream, and his jaw had gone hard. Turn off the broadcast, he told Kalichi. Pull the ownership records and every staff complaint at Crown Designs, and prepare dismissal papers for everyone who helped cover this up. Then he stood, straightened his jacket, and went down to the interview floor himself. The moment he entered the room changed. The department heads shot to their feet. Mr. Ize, they stammered. Congratulations, sir. It was only a small matter. We've already resolved it. Zara stopped at the door by a security guard who had been told not to let her leave until she apologized, turned and saw her own husband walk in beside the billionaire everyone feared. Except no one was treating Chima like a bodyguard. They were treating him like the owner. Her mind refused to make the shapes fit. On what evidence did you decide she copied the design? Chima asked the room. It's obvious, sir. Amaka comes from a respected fashion family. Her uncle is a senior director. This girl sells clothes on the road. So her poverty is your proof. I didn't say that. That's exactly what you said. He turned to Amaka. If the design is yours, explain the idea behind it. Amaka faltered. It's inspired by medieval fashion. Medieval. Chima's voice was quiet. Explain it. She could not. She stumbled through a few borrowed words and stalled. Then Chima looked at Zara. You, explain your design. Zara did not know why the billionaire was speaking to her or why her husband stood at his shoulder saying nothing, but she knew her own work. This dress is about a woman who has suffered and refuses to stay broken, she said. The cream color is peace. The darker beads at the waist are the hardest season of her life. I curved the neckline so it would look delicate, not weak. I kept the sleeves light because she no longer carries the full weight of her pain. Silence. The sketches, the dates, the sewing notes, all of it lined up behind her words like witnesses. Amaka Ude is disqualified from this interview, Chima said, and barred from employment with any company owned by the Ize Group. You abused your family's position to destroy a candidate's career without a shred of evidence. To Ifeoma, he said, you'll lose your annual bonus and 40% of your salary. It could have been worse. Then to Zara, Chizaram Osuji, you're hired at a higher salary than this position advertised. Thank you for the chance to see how this company really runs. Zara got the job. Amaka lost everything, and Zara stood there staring at the two men, at the powerful CEO and at her husband beside him, unable to understand what she was seeing. When she found Chima alone afterward, she asked him plainly, "What are you doing here? At first you were walking ahead of him." "I checked the room," Chima said, "for danger. You're his bodyguard." "Yes." The lie again, smooth as ever. "It's why I'm always with him." She almost laughed. "Your muscles aren't even that big." "They're enough," he said, and for the first time she saw him fight a smile. That evening, Crown Designs held a welcome dinner for its new hires at, of all places, the same elite pastry shop where Zara had first defended an old woman. The two clerks who had pushed Patricia were not on duty that night. Zara brought one guest, Mama Patricia herself, who was finally going to eat the cake she'd been denied. But Amaka was there too, still bitter over the bonus and the salary she'd lost, and she could not let it lie. "Where's your husband?" she asked Zara loud enough for the table. "Ashamed to bring him, I heard he's only a security guard." "There's nothing wrong with being a security guard," Zara said, "and I'm proud of my husband." "Maybe," Amaka said. "But this is a corporate dinner. People bring someone they're proud of, not an old woman off the street." When Patricia spoke up in Zara's defense, Amaka rounded on her. "Don't interfere, old woman." And she snatched Patricia's bag and the inhaler inside it and held them up out of reach. "If she wants it," Amaka sneered, "let her kneel and beg." Patricia's breathing turned to a thin, tearing wheeze. Her asthma. She groped for air that would not come, and Zara dropped to her knees at once. "I'll kneel," she said. "Just give her the inhaler." But before she could, a hand closed over Amaka's wrist. Chima had arrived. He took the inhaler and pressed it into Zara's hands, and Zara got it to Patricia and told her to breathe slowly, slowly, while someone called for a car and a doctor. "You almost killed my grandmother," Chima said to Amaka, and his voice had gone to ice. Everyone in the room heard the word grandmother. "You're just a security guard," Amaka spat, still not understanding. "You can't do anything to me." "Anyone who harms my family faces the same end," Chima said. You're finished at Crown Designs and at every company connected to the Ize group. And this time no uncle could save her. At the hospital, once the doctors had Patricia stable and resting, Zara sat by the bed with her hands still shaking. Chima found her there. "I was supposed to protect you both," he said. "I should never have taken you to that dinner." "You came fast," she told him. "It's not your fault. Grandma called you, she barely had time to explain, and you still came." "I knew something had happened," he said, the moment the phone cut off. He looked at the old woman sleeping, then at Zara, and something in his face was rawer than a bodyguard's face had any right to be. Patricia, never one to waste a crisis, announced from her pillow that she would recover far better under her granddaughter's care than with any nurse. Nurses were not family, she said. And since Zara's flat had only one bedroom, well then Chima would simply have to stay too to help. She overrode every objection. And then a day later, with the cheerful ruthlessness of a woman who had orchestrated the whole thing, she changed her mind and went to recover at a friend's house instead, leaving the two of them alone in a small flat with one bed. "She planned this," Chima said. "From the start," Zara agreed. They argued gently over who would take the bed. Zara insisted the guard's work was exhausting and he should have it. Chima insisted she was his wife and a guest in her own way. In the end, he took the sofa that was far too short for him and did not complain. "Grandma spent her retirement to clear my debt," Zara thought as she lay awake. "The least I can do is treat him well." She did not know how true the first half of that thought was. The days that followed were small and ordinary, and Chima, who owned towers and companies and could not walk through an airport without being photographed, found he could not remember the last time he had been so content. He woke before dawn each morning to slip out to Crown Designs, letting Zara believe he was reporting for guard duty, and he came back each evening to a flat that smelled of her cooking and thread and cheap soap. And he was happier in that one room than he had ever been in any of his houses. The heater in the flat had been broken for days. The landlord kept promising and never came. One evening, while Zara was showering, the thing sparked and hissed against the wall, and Chima, certain she would be electrocuted, tore it loose with his bare hands. "Chima, what are you doing?" She came out wrapped in a towel, dripping eyes wide. "The heater, it's faulty. I cut the power." "I was still holding the ruined thing. I thought you might get hurt." "I forgot to—" "The wiring was bad," she said, and then neither of them knew where to look, and she disappeared back behind the curtain, and he stood there with his heart going like a boy's. He had married her to expose her, and somewhere along the way he had begun to unravel instead. In the evenings, she went to her stall to catch the late buyers, and he insisted on going with her, carrying her bag, sitting on an upturned crate beside her for hours in the dark, while Okada horns and generator hum filled the street. "You don't have to come," she told him. "You're not my bodyguard." "I'm still your husband," he said. "Don't complain when you get tired." "Is this all you earned?" he asked one night, watching her count a modest stack of small notes by the light of her phone. "It was a good night," she said, and she was not being ironic. "This is a few days of food. If I sell a little more tomorrow, maybe chicken and fried rice for the weekend." "What makes it special?" "Chicken, obviously." She laughed at his face. "Don't look at the money like that. It isn't much, but I earned it myself, and nobody can take it back or hold it over my head." She folded the notes carefully into a cloth. "You could rest, you know. You work all day, and then sit out here half the night with me." "I have a debt to pay too," he said, which was truer than she could possibly know. He said nothing more, but something in him rearranged itself for good that night. I married her to expose her greed, he thought. Instead, I'm the one being exposed for judging her. When an overtime form came around at Crown Designs offering triple the normal rate, Zara lit up. "Triple, your boss is a wonderful man," she told Chima. "So many rich people only think of themselves, but he seems to actually care about his workers. Please tell him one of his employees is grateful." "I'll pass it on," Chima said, and had to look away. The promotion came soon after, and with it an invitation to a grand Ize group celebration and gifts from Patricia, including a pair of green jade earrings that Patricia said had come down through her own family. Zara tried to refuse them. They looked far too fine. "They were part of my wedding gifts long ago," Patricia insisted. "They'll look wonderful on my daughter." She had begun calling Zara her daughter, and Zara wore the earrings because of it. At the celebration, Zara's plain, honest presence again drew Amaka's fury, and Amaka reached for the one weapon she had left. She announced to the room that her own family had recently bought a famous pair of green jade earrings, the very ones that were to have been unveiled that night, and then she saw Zara wearing jade at her ears and pounced. "There's only one such pair in the world," Amaka declared. "Yours are fake. A street vendor can't own jade worth hundreds of millions. Take them off and stop pretending." "Just because someone is poor doesn't make the thing on her fake," Zara said. She looked at Amaka's earrings and with a designer's eye added, "Yours are the ones that look wrong. The color's too bright, the surface too smooth. Real jade carries small inclusions inside it." "You know nothing about jewelry," Amaka snapped, but the color had risen in her face. "Everyone knows she's poor. A street vendor can't own jade worth hundreds of millions. She wore fakes to look rich. Take them off and stop pretending." "Being poor doesn't make the thing on my ears a lie," Zara said. "Test them. Test both pairs if you're so sure." The room began to murmur, and a few of the other guests studying Amaka's two bright stones began to agree with Zara. To settle it, the host brought out a professional stone testing kit and had an assistant run it in front of everyone. Both pairs were tested, then tested again, twice, because the first result seemed impossible to the people who had already decided who the liar was. Zara's jade was real. Inherited genuine worth, exactly what Patricia had said. Amaka's were factory copies dyed glass. She had stood in front of 100 people and accused another woman of the very lie she herself was wearing. It was too much for director Udi Amaka's uncle, who had come striding in to defend his niece, and now found himself to the confusion of everyone watching speaking to the security guard, beside Zara, with the deference of a frightened junior employee. "You embarrassed this family enough at that interview," he told Amaka. "As of today, you no longer work in our family business." He turned to Chima, almost bowing. "I'm sorry for what happened here. Our family will pay double the cost of any damage." That was the moment the truth reached Amaka, and it hit her like a falling wall. The man she had called a poor security guard, the man whose boss everyone feared, was the boss. The gray-suited assistant she'd assumed was the CEO was only Kalichi, the assistant. The man in plain clothes was Chima Ize, chairman of the Ize Group. And Zara, the street vendor she had spent months trying to destroy, was his wife. "That's impossible," Amaka whispered. "Zara married a poor worker." "She married one of the richest men in the country," her uncle said. "You ruined your own life. Come." A few days later, 50 million naira appeared in Zara's account. Compensation, the note said, from the Easy Group for the earring broken and the public humiliation at the celebration. Zara was overwhelmed and frankly suspicious of a sum that large. She tried to refuse it, and Patricia told her firmly to keep it and please to put it in a bank and not under the bed. But the money planted a small human doubt in Zara, and one evening it came out sideways. "Do you think your boss likes me?" she asked Chima. "He keeps helping me. He hired me, promoted me, sent 50 million to my account." "Would you rather have married him?" Chima asked, and there was an edge to it he had not planned. "Why are you angry?" "I'm not angry." "You look angry," Zara said. Then more softly, "I wouldn't leave you for a rich man. Money doesn't make love. I'd rather have the hard-working security guard I married." She meant it as loyalty. He heard it as a knife because every kind word she gave the guard was a word she would not have given him if she'd known the truth. And the truth was getting heavier every day. That truth would soon get its first serious test at a dinner with Zara's relatives. The aunt and uncle who had raised her after her parents died, and their daughter Adeze, Zara's cousin, freshly returned from abroad. They had never let Zara forget she was an orphan eating their food. They had dressed Adeze in new clothes and made Zara wear Adeze's cast-offs. They had turned a grieving child into an unpaid servant. Now they wanted to see the husband Zara claimed to have found. Zara went alone. Chima had offered to come, but she'd waved him off. "My relatives are cruel," she'd told him. "They'll insult you because they think you're poor. I can handle them myself." She had no idea her poor husband could have bought the whole street they lived on. At the table, Adeze looked her up and down. "You came to a family dinner dressed like this, and you're 25, still no children, married to whom exactly?" "His name is Chima. He's busy." "Too poor to face us, you mean?" her aunt said. "Call him. Let's see the man who agreed to marry you." So Zara called, and Chima's voice came calm and even down the line while the whole family leaned in to sneer, and the sneering had barely started when a delivery arrived at the door. 6 bottles of a whiskey, so rare that only a handful existed in the entire world, worth hundreds of millions of naira, addressed by name to Chizara Mosuji. The relatives assumed it was a mistake or a fake or meant for audace, and in their contempt, one of them cracked a bottle open on the table's edge to prove it was cheap. It was not cheap. Chima had sent it to his wife. When the courier quietly explained what had just been broken, that there were only a few bottles of that vintage left anywhere on earth. The whole room went the color of ash. The aunt who had spent years reminding Zara she was a burden suddenly could not find her voice. "You raised me," Zara said, standing, "and you reminded me every single day that I was an orphan eating your bread. You bought 80s new clothes and dressed me in her rags. You made me a servant in the house that was supposed to keep me safe." She set down her glass. "I'm not the helpless child you ruled anymore." And she walked out with her head high and did not look back. It was around this time that a new figure stepped into their lives. A poised, expensive young woman named Nena Okeke, who found Zara alone and warned her with a smile to stay away from what belonged to another woman. "Chima is my fiancé," Nena said. "You've mistaken the person," Zara said. "My husband is a security guard." "So he didn't tell you," Nena said, and left the seed to grow. The truth was tangled, but not the way Nena made it sound. Years earlier, the Ease and Okeke families had discussed a possible marriage between Chima and Nena. Chima had never agreed to it, but Nena had spent years telling herself the arrangement was real, and Zara's existence enraged her. Chima had resolved finally to tell Zara everything, all of it, that very night. He had even started. "There's something I have to tell you," he'd said, "about who I really am." He never got to finish. A crisis broke over one of the Eze Group's foreign investments. Hundreds of millions exposed the legal and financial teams already assembling, and they needed him on a plane out of the country within hours. "What is it, Chima?" she asked at the door, seeing his face. "When I get back," he said, "I'll tell you everything, all of it, I promise." "I trust you," Zara said. Those 3 words would haunt him the whole way across the ocean because he knew exactly how little he deserved them and exactly what it would cost her when she learned the truth from someone else's mouth instead of his. With Chima gone, Nena made her move. She placed a large, very specific order through Crown Designs, a deliberately shabby, poor-looking coat to be designed and delivered in person by Zara herself to Enena's birthday celebration. The Crown Designs manager, eager for the deposit, assigned it to Zara without question. Zara arrived and Nena forced her to model the coat in front of the whole party, mocking her as a beggar, as the poor seamstress who had dared to touch another woman's man. And then Chima walked in. His plane had landed and he had come straight there. In front of everyone, he pulled Zara out of Nena's little theater, and Nena, thinking her moment had come, at last announced to the room that she was about to introduce her future husband, Chima Eze, the billionaire chairman of the Eze Group. Zara heard the name. She saw the room turn to Chima, her security guard. She saw the expensive watch, remembered the 50 million that had come from the Eze Group, remembered Director Uday's fear, the rare wine, the way doors opened wherever her husband stood. And every lie assembled itself at once. "Zara, let me explain," Chima said. "Don't touch me." She stepped back and her voice shook. "How long were you going to lie to me?" "At first I thought you only wanted my grandmother's money," he admitted, and the words were terrible in the open air. "I married you to test you." "Our marriage was a test. It was not a question. You watched me struggle to sell clothes on the road while you owned companies. You let me believe your grandmother spent her retirement savings." "She did," Chima said. "That part was true. I meant to pay it back. I meant to tell you all of it, and every time I tried, I was afraid I'd lose you. Then I fell in love with the life we had, and I kept lying because I loved you." "You knew what happened to my parents," Zara said, and now the tears came. "They trusted a liar. Their lives were destroyed because a man deceived them. You knew I could not survive being lied to, and you built my whole marriage on a lie anyway." She wiped her face. "You didn't lose me by telling me the truth. You lost me by never trusting me with it. I want a divorce." Jaime did not chase her with money or power, though every instinct he had was built for both. He let her go. But quietly he set an investigation in motion into Nena Okeke, into Amaka Yud, into the Crown Designs manager who had sent Zara into that trap, and he told his people to keep close enough to protect his wife without ever letting her feel watched. She had asked to be alone. He would give her that much honestly, at least. Nena and Amaka, both of them wrecked by the same woman, found each other in their bitterness. "Because of Zara, I lost my career and my family," Amaka said. "Because of her, Chima humiliated me in front of everyone. Nena answered. They had each fought Zara alone and lost. Now they would finish it together. The trap was simple and cruel. A message reached Zara from an important client who wanted to see her sketches at an address that was not on any Crown Designs list. Zara went, and Nena's men were waiting. They locked her in an empty building on the edge of the city. One room, one high window, a single guard at the door. You finally understand that poor women should know their place, Nena told her, circling. Chima will marry me tomorrow morning. He'll do whatever I say as long as I have you. Cooperate and you stay safe. Make trouble and well. She smiled. No one even knows this place exists. Who's going to come for you? You don't know him, Zara said quietly. I know him better than a street girl ever will. But Nena's smile flickered just slightly, and she left the room, and Zara filed that flicker away. Chima was frantic when Zara did not come home. He called Crown Designs and learned about the strange off-list order, the important client, and the address that matched nothing. I was still on the phone when Nena called him herself and made her demand plan a public wedding, an announcement to the press that she was his wife, a ceremony the very next day, all in exchange for Zara's safety. I'll marry you, Chima said into the phone, and then the moment he hung up, he turned to Kalichi and gave a very different set of orders. Check every call Nena has made. She'll contact Amaka. She can't resist gloating. The wedding announcement will make Amaka confident, and confident people get careless. Let the rumor spread. Let them believe I'm marrying Nena. Use it to find Zara. It worked exactly as he said. The false announcement went out, and all over the city people believed the billionaire was marrying Nena Okeke. By the end of the day, Nena told her reflection, everyone will call me Chima Ize's wife. Amaka, giddy with the news, could not resist calling to congratulate her, to relive the victory, and every second of that call was traced the towers. It pinged the district. It came from the pattern of where Nena's people moved. Meanwhile, Zara refused to sit still and wait to be saved. She had spent her whole life surviving on her own wits, and she did not intend to stop now. When the guard dozed, she worked one of her real jade earrings loose and tore a narrow strip from the hem of her dress, and she pushed them through the gap under the door and out toward the road. Small, bright things a searching eye might catch, a trail of her own making. Someone has to notice these, she whispered. An earring and a piece of cloth will tell them where they took me. The two things came together, the traced calls and Zara's stubborn breadcrumbs, and they led straight to the building on the city's edge. Chima came through the door himself, ahead of everyone, and found her alive. I thought I was going to die here, she said. No, he told her, holding her. I would have turned the whole world over to bring you home. The police came behind him. Nena Okeke was arrested for kidnapping, blackmail, and conspiracy. Amaka Yud for her part in all of it. There was supposed to be a wedding, Nena said as they cuffed her. The only place you're going, the officer answered, is the station. What followed was not a grand reconciliation, and Chima did not try to make it one. He knew better now. Fear explains why I lied, he told Zara, sitting across from her with no bodyguards, no assistant, no empire between them. But it doesn't justify it. I thought if I controlled everything around you, I could keep the danger out. Instead, the danger was already inside in the lie, and I was the one who hurt you with it. I made you build your whole marriage on the exact thing that killed your parents. I understand if you can never forgive that. Love can't survive without trust, and I'm the one who broke the trust. I know, Zara said. And for a long moment, that was all she could manage. Patricia came to her too and apologized in her own right. I wanted Chima to marry a good woman, the old woman said, holding Zara's hands in both of hers. And I was right about you the very first minute I saw you in that shop when you gave away your own lunch. But I was wrong to help him deceive you. I treated the lies as harmless jokes, an old woman's game. I never once stopped to think what they would do to a girl who had already been destroyed by a liar. That was my sin, not just his. She squeezed Zara's fingers. You're free to leave him, my daughter. None of us will use money or power or family to stop you. If you go with my blessing and my apology both. Chima made that promise real. Publicly, he confirmed that Nena Okeke had never been his fiancée, that the families had only ever discussed a match he never agreed to. Every director and employee who had covered for Amaka's theft or abused their position was dismissed, and he stepped down from the board of the charitable foundation he had set up in Zara's name, handing it to an independent board. I don't want you to ever think I'm using charity to control you, he told her. He did not disappear, and he did not push. He began going to Patricia's house on his own and to the small home Zara had moved into, carrying groceries, fixing the pipe, mending the fence, learning for the first time in his life how to serve without leading, how to be useful to people who could give him nothing in return. "I can't fix what I did to Zara with money," he admitted to his grandmother once on his knees under a leaking sink. "But maybe I can learn to be a person who serves instead of one who commands. I always believed people only wanted what I had. So I tested Zara before I even knew her, and when I saw how wrong I was, I kept lying because I was terrified of losing her. I made everything worse trying to protect it." "Then stop protecting," Patricia said. "Start earning." Month after month, he kept coming. He no longer performed for an audience. There was no audience. He came in the rain, and he came when he was tired from a boardroom, and slowly the woman watching from the window stopped bracing herself every time she heard his car. "I still love you," Zara told him at last on the step one evening, "but I can't go back to the marriage we had." "I don't want that marriage either," he said. "We started with secrets and tests. Let's start over." He held out his hand as if to a stranger. "My name is Chima Eze. I'm not a security guard. I'm a man who loves you and wants the chance to earn your trust." She looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. "You can call me Zara." "It's good to meet you, Zara." There was one piece of unfinished business, and it took them back to where it all began, the elite pastry shop. Because the Ease Group's holdings ran deeper than most people knew, and that gleaming confectionery was one of them. And Chima had never forgotten what his grandmother told him about the day she was pushed toward the door. The company reviewed its own footage. The two clerks who had shoved Patricia that first afternoon, Ngozi and Rita, were identified by name, and the recordings confirmed exactly what they had done: attacked an elderly customer and driven her out because they judged her too poor to matter. "Your employment ends immediately," the manager told them, "with the loss of every benefit attached to it and a formal report on file. You are both barred from any Ease Group property." The two women begged, said they had made a mistake, and the manager only answered, "You made a choice." Then she turned and, on behalf of the shop, apologized to Patricia and to Zara before everyone present. "You were insulted and humiliated because our workers looked at your clothes and decided you were poor and unworthy of respect," she said. "We take full responsibility and we will not hide what happened. From today, it is written into our policy: no customer is ever to be touched, insulted, or turned away because of how they look, and it will be enforced even when there is not a single wealthy face in the room. Every employee will be trained in it. Every complaint of discrimination or assault will be recorded and investigated at once." Zara stepped up to the gleaming counter where once she had counted coins in her palm and come up short for a single small cake. "This time," she said, laying her wallet on the glass, "I remembered my wallet, and this time I can afford it." She bought the most beautiful cake in the case, and Patricia, standing beside her with tears in her old eyes, said she had never in her life been so proud. Their marriage had begun with a forgotten wallet, a single meat pie, and one act of kindness offered to a stranger who had nothing to give in return. It had almost ended over a lie. But the truth, arriving late and painful, had given them the one thing money never could: a chance to begin again honestly. "Take me home," Zara told him one evening, "to the room beside Grandma's." "No," she said, and took his hand. "To our home." "Are you sure?" he asked. "Nothing has to happen. You can have any room you want. I'll wait as long as it takes for you to feel." "I didn't come back to live in a guest room, Chima," she said. "I came home to my husband. No more secrets." "No more secrets," he promised. In the months that followed, they built the marriage they had skipped the first time, slowly, honestly, with nothing hidden between them. He courted her the way he should have from the start, and she let herself be courted, and the fear that had lived in her chest since her parents died began at last to quiet. And when Zara told him one ordinary morning that there were two heartbeats now instead of one, Chima Eze, who had once owned everything and trusted no one, wept like a man who had finally been given the only fortune that ever mattered. "Two heartbeats," the doctor said. "You're expecting twins." "We asked for a miracle," Chima whispered, "and we were given two." They named their son Chidubem and their daughter. Chisholm and Patricia held them both against her chest and prayed that they would grow in truth and love and kindness, the same three things that had once walked into a pastry shop wearing patched clothes and empty pockets and quietly changed everything. She had come with no silver and no gold, only as much kindness as her 2 hands could hold. She had given her lunch to a stranger, never dreaming that single meat pie would build a whole family on the far side of it. And it had. If this story moved you, do one small thing before you go. Subscribe and leave a comment telling me, have you ever been judged for how you looked and turned out to be worth far more than anyone guessed? I read every single one.